6 of us sat in the lunchroom going over the list of 35 state correctional facilities in Wisconsin. Billy and Todd brought along their laptops from the tech department and worked their magic. With the software they had access to and the parameters we told them to use, they were able to pull up all the criminals in the state who'd served 10-year sentences and been released in the last year. Okay, Todd, you take half of them and Billy the other half. Now narrow those names down to people who served their sentences for violent crimes. I'm not interested in white-collar criminals. I looked at their screens. Only 40 names? Maybe we should go back further, see how many names fit that criteria going back 5 years. Billy hit a few keys and pulled up almost 150 names. That's doable. Is there any way to get their photos and descriptions too? How about by age? I don't think we're looking for anyone over 70, do you, Jack? Doubt it. Let's go by age first, then description. I nodded. Yeah, sure. We waited while Billy punched that information into the search parameters. Okay, that dropped it down to 115 inmates under 70. What's next? Billy asked. Jack spoke up. Let's go with everyone 5'10" and taller. Weight can vary too much. After that, let's see if any of them are from southeast Wisconsin, preferably Washburn County. Maybe even if they have family in the area, too. Sure, hold on. Todd pulled up a list of 62 inmates that had been released in the last 5 years that were 5'10" or taller and less than 70 years old. That's it? 62? That's a good start and not at all overwhelming. Print out all of their names, photos, addresses, and parole officer's contact info. We'll start making calls after lunch. I've got to run upstairs and see if my boys have anything they want to discuss before they leave our fair county in an hour. Everyone be back here at 1 o'clock. I was hopeful and felt as though we were doing something that might give us leads. I took the stairs 2 at a time. I asked John if Manny and Frank had any information they wanted to share with me before they were sent up the river. They only said your name and a few choice curse words in Spanish. They're being processed out of the county right now into the state system. Do you want to give them one more opportunity to talk to you? Nah, they had their chance. They can enjoy the next 10 years in a real prison. Tell them I said to enjoy their new digs. Yes, ma'am, with pleasure. I headed back downstairs. Those 2 punks weren't going to upset me. I was sure we'd find the main players in their meth-making organization soon enough. For now, it felt good to get 2 of them off the street. Want to go out for lunch? Jack asked. My treat. Why are you offering to pay? I gave him a suspicious grin. You deserve it, that's all. I know this case is keeping you awake at night. Hell, it's definitely wearing me down. You need a little break, Jade, plus your birthday is Saturday. I haven't heard mention of a party, so this is the least I can do. Come on, let's go to the Washington House. It will be a nice change from vending machine sandwiches. Okay, you got a deal. It will be nice to relax over lunch for once. No talk of work until we get back to the station, though. Jack pulled the invisible zipper across his lips. No talk of work, I promise. We grabbed an unmarked cruiser from the lot, and within 5 minutes we were parked on Main Street. 7 brick steps led up to the entrance of the Washington House restaurant. The 3-story building stood taller than the rest in the historic center of Main Street. A brass plaque was bolted on the outer wall next to the front door. The limestone building had been erected in 1861 as an upscale hotel in the heart of North Bend. Over the years, it had gone through many changes, but the building currently housed apartments on the upper levels and a nice restaurant and bar on the first floor. Live music played every Wednesday and Saturday night. The hostess stand was just beyond the foyer, and a long, ornate oak bar was beyond that. Our eyes had to adjust from bright sunshine to the dimly lit bar area in front of us. Beautiful stained glass pendant lights hung every 5 feet above the bar. Gabby was written across the hostess's plastic name badge pinned to her burgundy long-sleeved blouse. The name itself made me grin. "A table for lunch or just a drink at the bar?" she asked, wearing a wide smile. Jack spoke up. "A table for 2, please." "Certainly. Right this way." Gabby seated us next to the fireplace. Since it was close to summer, a fire wasn't lit, but it was a pretty place to sit anyway. White linen tablecloths covered the tables, and a rose in a bud vase sat in the center of each one. I had a sudden flashback to the vase of flowers on my desk. I quickly dismissed it as Gabby went over today's lunch specials with us. "May I get you started with something to drink?" "Sure, I'll have a raspberry iced tea," I said. Jack placed the napkin on his lap. "I'll take the same." I looked around the dining room. As many years as I'd lived in North Bend, I had never been in the Washington house. This is kind of fancy for lunch. "Yeah, so what? You're worth it as long as the bill stays under $10. Jack chuckled. I pinched his arm. "You're terrible." He winced and rubbed the red mark harder than necessary. "So, is Amber excited about moving this weekend?" "Absolutely. I'll admit I wasn't too keen on the idea at first, but now I'm kind of looking forward to it too." "That's great for both of you, and I get it. Look how close I am to my brothers, and we're closer in age than you and Amber are. You'll really get to know each other a lot better this way." "Yeah, and getting her away from Bruce the perv isn't such a bad idea either." Jack laughed. "You know, my offer is still on the table. Just say the word." I grinned and opened my menu. "Everything looks good. I think I'll have the caprese sandwich on toasted ciabatta bread. That sounds delicious." "It does, but you're over $10 already with your iced tea." Jerk. The waitress appeared with our beverages. "Have you decided yet?" "Sure have. The lady will have the caprese sandwich, and I'll have the sirloin burger with home fries. Jade, do you want something on the side?" Okay, I'll have a fruit cup with my sandwich." The waitress took our orders and our menus, thanked us, and left. "So what did Amber think of the condo she looked at last weekend?" "There were a few she really liked that I want to take a look at myself. We have an appointment set up for Saturday with Melissa Matley again to look at 3-bedroom units. I hope the house doesn't take too long to sell." "You've got a nice place, Jade. It should go quickly, especially with summer coming. Kids will be out of school in a few weeks, and families will be moving." "Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to living somewhere that doesn't have Lance memories." Jack nodded. "It looks like our lunch is coming." The waitress carried a tray to our table. It held the best-looking lunch I had seen in a long time, and nothing was wrapped in cellophane. Chapter 23. We reconvened in the lunchroom just after 1 o'clock. Billy had placed a pitcher of water and cups on the table. I thanked him for thinking of it. 62 photos and profiles of recently released inmates lay spread out across the long lunch table. "We should divide these up by counties. Some might share the same parole officers. That could speed things up. Let's do that first and see what we have." It only took 15 minutes, and the 62 sheets of paper were stacked into 5 counties. Milwaukee County held 27 names. "Why doesn't that surprise me?" Jack said. "What else do we have?" Billy spoke up. "Washburn County has 6 names, Marinette County has 4 names, Racine County has 14, and Kenosha County has 11. "All right, Billy, you and Todd work on Milwaukee. I'll take Washburn. Jack, you can have Racine. Clayton, you take Kenosha, and Billings, you take Marinette. Let's call the parole officers and get some idea of these guys. It will probably take the rest of the day, maybe even tomorrow if we don't get through to all of the parole officers this afternoon. Let's get started. Write down everything they tell you, don't leave anything out." At 3 o'clock, Lieutenant Clark came into the bullpen to check our progress. We each sat at our desks. Todd and Billy sat at the empty desks that detectives Jameson and Horbeck used at night. Clark said he was impressed with our determination. "Okay, take 10 and tell me what you have," he said. "In Milwaukee County, we've gone through 8 names with the parole officer so far. Of those 8, 5 of them hold down steady daytime jobs and haven't missed a day of work in 6 months. 1 guy has severe back problems, and 2 live at halfway houses with a 10 o'clock curfew. Nobody goes by the nickname Dime," Todd said. "Jade, what do you have for Washburn County?" "So far, boss, not much. I'm going to dig in with Barry Nicholas a little deeper on the 2 guys he mentioned. I'll pay him a visit tomorrow. He said both of these guys have past issues with domestic violence and animal cruelty." Anyone else? Anything that stands out yet?" the lieutenant asked. Jack, Clayton, and Billings looked at each other and shrugged. "Okay, keep it up. Good work, everyone. Oh, by the way, Jade, call Perry and tell him Elise's body will be released tomorrow." The lieutenant stepped into his office and closed the door behind him. I sighed. That's good news. Perry can start making funeral arrangements. I hope the craziness is over for a while. I called Perry's house, but nobody answered. I left myself a note to try again in the morning. By the time we wrapped up our calls to the parole officers, it was after 5 o'clock. We realized these people had regular work hours, and we were beginning to get more voicemails than real people on the phone. "Let's call it a day. There's no need to leave messages and then call back tomorrow anyway. We'll start fresh in the morning. Thanks, guys." Jack rubbed his eyes and stood up. "I'll walk out with you, Jade. I'm beat." We exited together and walked to our cars parked side by side. "See you in the morning, partner. Thanks for lunch," I said. He got in his car, waved, and drove away. I realized now that a few things would have to change with Amber moving in. The shoulder holster with my service weapon couldn't just lie on the breakfast bar as it normally did anymore. I gave it some thought as I drove home. I should keep it in my bedroom from now on. I don't want to freak her out with it just lying around. I thought about my dad, too. I'll call him tonight after he gets home from work. We need to catch up, and I'd like his take on this killer. I arrived home and pressed the garage door remote. I waited as the overhead door opened. The door from the garage led into the laundry room with the kitchen just beyond that. Polly and Porky's cage stood in the dinette and faced the bay window looking out to the side yard. They enjoyed the morning sunshine pouring in from the east. Their birdseed messes were easier to sweep up from the tile floor rather than the carpet. I walked in, removed my shoulder holster, and set it on the breakfast bar. I went to the birdcage and greeted them just as always. Tonight, Porky hopped on my outstretched finger. I petted him and gave him a kiss. With fresh water and more birdseed, they were content for the night. I knew there wouldn't be much of a dinner choice in the refrigerator, but I could get creative if I had to. I pulled open the door and groaned. Other than condiments and half a quart of suspicious-looking milk, the refrigerator stood nearly empty. I ordered Chinese again and told them I'd pass on the fortune cookies. This time I opted for delivery. I didn't have the energy to go out again and pick up dinner. With a glass of wine in my hand, I plopped down on the couch and let out a sigh. I checked the time, another hour before Dad would be home from work. I reached for the remote sitting on the coffee table when a sound startled me. A definite thump sounded from one of the bedrooms down the hall. I didn't really hear anything, did I? My mind tried to rationalize the sound. I could talk myself out of thinking I heard something. I'm a brave and reasonable woman. It had to be a noise coming from the furnace, or the air conditioner, or the refrigerator, didn't it? What the hell was that? I heard my heart pounding in my chest and waited, certain it was my imagination. The horrific images of Morris and Elise popped into my head. I listened again, my ears perked. Another thump sounded. Now I had to do something. I had to act. Luckily, my shoes were off and I could move about without making noise. I crept to my service weapon and pulled it out of the holster. Moments like this made me hate living alone. The hallway light needed to stay off, or whoever was on the other side of the bedroom door would see me when I opened it. They'd have the advantage. My years of police training kicked in within seconds. I racked the slide of my pistol and chambered a live bullet. My back was pressed against the wall as I moved silently down the hall with my weapon drawn, trying to determine which room the sound came from. With each step I took, I stopped and listened, then moved on. The last room was the one Amber would use. I pressed my ear against the door. The sound came from inside. I stood against the wall, knowing I'd have to swing the door open and hit the light all in one movement. I took a deep breath and reached for the knob. Son of a gun, I don't believe this crap. I stopped and listened to the familiar cry of Spaz, pawing and whining on the other side of the door. I lowered my weapon and opened the door. Amber's cat ran down the hall in a flurry of hissing fur. "What the heck are you doing here?" I grabbed my cell phone and called Amber. "Hi, sis," she said. "What in the hell is Spaz doing here? I almost shot him." "What? Don't you dare shoot my cat." "Why didn't you tell me you were bringing him over already?" "Jade, have you read any of the texts I sent you today?" "I was busy making calls all day. I didn't look at them." "I texted you that Spaz was in my new room and the door was closed. I wasn't sure how it would work with him and the birds. Better safe than sorry, right?" "Yeah, smart thinking. I guess I'm just tense lately. I heard a couple of thumps and thought the worst. Spaz must have jumped off the bed or something like that. We'll figure it out, sis. I can always put the birdcage in my bedroom until we move." "Do you want me to come over, Jade? It sounds like you need some company." "Sure, that sounds good. I'm going to call Dad later, too. We'll talk to him together on speakerphone." Chapter 24. Amber talked on the phone to our dad while I ate dinner. I never grew tired of Chinese food, but like a generous sister, I gave Amber the pot stickers. She explained to Dad that she was moving in with me and that we were going out to look at condos again on Saturday. I added my 2 cents every few minutes and told him about the scare Spaz had given me earlier. "Amber, honey, don't forget your big sis is a cop with a big gun." He laughed when I described how I slinked down the hall, ready to shoot whatever was on the other side of that door. All I can say is Amber is lucky I recognized Spaz's voice and put 2 and 2 together. That cat wouldn't have made it to 9 lives with a hole from my gun through him. Dad let out a full belly laugh. We chuckled. On a more serious note, I went on to explain to my dad the situation we were dealing with in North Bend. Amber curled up on the couch and watched TV, leaving the cop talk to us. "We don't actually have any leads to go on, Dad. It's really frustrating. We find the bodies after the fact with no idea who he's after. The bodies are found outside, and there's no forensic evidence anywhere." "No defensive wounds or DNA?" "Nope, nothing." "Sounds like he may have blindsided them, especially if they didn't put up a fight." "I think Elise did initially. Her face was beaten pretty badly, like he punched her. It's likely Morris didn't know anything since his throat was slit. The guy obviously approached him from behind and overpowered him easily." "So what do you have, honey?" "Only our suspicions. The guy must be 6 foot or taller and strong. That's it, Dad. Nothing else." I lowered my voice to continue. "He's left a dime at each location, though. He wants us to know it's him. I guess the dime is his calling card since he goes by that name." Dad sighed. "Not a lot to work with, honey. He isn't ready to be caught yet, but he likes the game." "That's what it sounds like. We don't want to find another dead body, but without more clues, this guy is always 1 step ahead of us." "Keep me posted and stay safe. That goes for your sister, too. Watch over her, Jade. Call me any time you want if you feel like talking about the case." "I will, Dad. Love you." "Love you too, honey. Tell your sister good night." "Will do." I hung up and sat next to Amber on the couch. She paused the TV and turned to me. "Jade, I've been doing some serious thinking." "Really? About what?" I got up and grabbed the wine bottle off the kitchen table. I brought it to the living room and filled both our glasses. "I want to change my major to a criminal justice degree. I've given it a lot of thought, and I want to follow in your and Dad's footsteps. Having a minor in behavioral sciences will come in handy, too. I think someday I'd like to be an FBI profiler." Wow, I'm speechless. I had no idea, Amber. I'm so proud of you, honey, and Dad will be, too. Are you sure this is what you want to do? I'm positive. I can start with criminal justice as my major in the fall. I'll figure out what additional courses I'll need to take. To be honest, I was never that keen on being a shrink in the normal sense of the word, but I do like the idea of figuring out how people think. Being a profiler somewhere down the line sounds exactly like what I want to do with my life. I know I have to go through the ranks and proper channels. Once I graduate, I intend to enroll in the police academy. Amber chuckled. I looked at the requirements to be a cop. I have to pass a psychological exam by a licensed psychiatrist. Maybe I can shrink the shrink. Knowing you, you'd probably try. So, would you be willing to tell me about the murder case you're working on? Honey, I can't tell you any more than what we've told the press. Those details are already in the newspaper. You aren't a cop yet, and we can't let certain things get out. I'm sorry. If there was anything I thought was a danger to you, of course I'd let you know. I promised Dad I'd keep you safe. I caught a glimpse of Spaz, crouched low, slinking toward the birdcage and ready to pounce. Yeah, that isn't going to work. Want to help me carry the cage into my bedroom? There's no way in hell Polly and Porky are going to be Spaz's evening meal. Sure, sorry Spaz had to come early. Mom said he was already getting into her yarn. Amber finally left at 10 o'clock. She had early classes, and I was usually up by 6:30 anyway. Sorry about tonight, Jade. Just think how fun it will be to look at condos together on Saturday, though. Cool, right? Very cool. Oh, I don't know if Mom mentioned it, but we're all going out for dinner together Saturday night for my birthday. Don't know where yet. She's picking the place. Anyway, bring over your clothes and a few things you can't live without Saturday morning. Melissa said she'd check in with us before we meet up. Amber grabbed her purse and keys. Thanks for the pot stickers and not shooting Spaz. She grinned. Night, Jade. I hugged her. Thanks for stopping over, sis. I don't seem to sleep well lately, so I'm hitting the sack now. Good night. Chapter 25. I was thankful for the 6 hours of sleep I got. Most nights, 4 seemed to be my best, if I was lucky. Every night I'd toss, turn, and punch my pillow until I was exhausted enough to fall asleep. Ideas bounced back and forth like ping-pong balls in my brain until I started writing them down so I could dismiss them. A full day lay ahead of us once we all got to the office. We would finish up our phone calls and hit the streets, hoping to talk to anyone that knew of someone named Dime or had heard of anything suspicious related to the killings. A stop at the gas station for a jumbo coffee encouraged me to indulge in a box of 24 donuts to share throughout the bullpen and with the tech boys. They were more than helpful, and I truly appreciated everything they had done for me. I never pictured myself drinking a jumbo gas station coffee, but my life was changing, and I'd get by just fine. I placed the large box of donuts on the table at the back of the bullpen. Hopefully they'd last longer if they weren't on Jack's desk. I chuckled at the thought. I'd never known anyone who was as unhealthy an eater as Jack, yet he was muscular and never got sick. He was strong, had endurance, and could outrun most 18-year-olds. I looked at the clock above the door. Todd and Billy should be downstairs by now. It was after 8. I'd invite them upstairs for donuts since they were so helpful yesterday. My heart told me to invite everyone. We were all involved in this case, like it or not. I stopped by Doug's office. He wasn't there, but Jason was. Kyle and Dan were just getting in. I told all of them that plenty of donuts were upstairs, and if they wanted any, they'd better go now. Jack, Clayton, and Billings should be arriving any minute, and Lieutenant Clark had already grabbed his pick of the bunch. Back upstairs, the guys were gathered in the bullpen around the table. Somebody had brought napkins in from the lunchroom. A great idea, since some of these were sticky, filled donuts. By the time Kyle, Dan, and Jason made it upstairs, the first dozen were gone. Okay, guys, as soon as we finish our breakfast treat and wash our grubby little fingers, I grinned, we can get back to where we left off on the phones yesterday. After that, we'll hit Settler Square and a few of the parks. Sounds good, Clayton said. Billings and I will walk through Regency and Riverside parks. Yep, those are the parks I would have suggested anyway. Jack and I will take Settler Square and all of downtown. Let's make calls until 11, then hit the streets. We picked up where we'd left off yesterday. Talking to parole officers seemed to be the most logical and reliable way to get information. They would have an extensive file on each person we asked about, plus they could tell us anything that seemed off about them. They'd have had FaceTime, one-on-one experience with each person they were assigned to. That in itself would be valuable information for us. I checked the notes I had left on my desk. One was to follow up on 2 guys with the Washburn County parole officer I spoke to yesterday. Both could be persons of interest. I also had written myself a note to call Perry. We would release Elise's body today to any funeral home he chose. I'd contact him first before I got too involved with the other calls. My mind drifted back to last Thursday night and how I'd enjoyed the yoga class with Elise. That was the last time I saw her alive. I remembered her larger-than-life personality and the happy smile she wore when she conducted those classes. I shook my head. "Jade, is everything okay?" I hadn't noticed Jack staring at me. "We'll get this, sicko. I promise you and the residents of North Bend. They need to feel safe in their own community," Jack said. "Sorry, I was just thinking back to last Thursday. I teased you about joining me at my yoga class. That was the last night I saw Elise alive. Do you need a minute? We can get started on our own. I know you need to call Perry." "Yeah, sure. I'll be right back." I found a quiet interrogation room and closed the door behind me. I sat down, took a deep breath, and dialed Perry's number. "Hello, Perry Adams, CPA." "Perry, it's Jade Monroe." "Hello, Sergeant. I just got the kids off to school." "How are you holding up?" I regretted asking the question once the words left my mouth. I knew he wasn't doing well, but I didn't know what else to say. "Well, you know, the kids are having a tough time." He began to cry. I rubbed my forehead and dug my fingertips into my temples. "Perry, have you decided on a funeral home yet? Elise's body can be released today if you've picked one." I heard Perry clear his throat. "I've already talked to the funeral director at Myram and Frank Funeral Home on Forest Street. They just need you to contact them. They said any time is fine. Then I'll go in after that and make arrangements with them." "Okay, not a problem. I'll call them as soon as we hang up." "Have you made any progress, Sergeant Monroe?" "Not yet, but we're working hard on it. We'll catch him. I just can't say when." He paused, and silence filled the phone line. "Okay, Sergeant. I guess that's it then. I'll call the funeral home in about an hour and set up a time to go in." "Thanks, Perry. I'm going to call them right now. Goodbye." I headed back to the bullpen with even more determination, sat down at my desk, and called the funeral home. After that, I called Barry Nicholas, the parole officer I spoke with yesterday, to make an appointment to see him. He told me I could come in immediately if I had time. "Guys, I'll be back in a bit. I'm going over to the courthouse to follow up with Barry about these guys I flagged yesterday." I grabbed the sheets on the two guys and left. With the courthouse right next to the sheriff's department, I took the sidewalk and entered through the east corridor hallway. The parole officer's office was on the second floor. I entered and told the receptionist, Nancy, I had an appointment with Barry. "Sure, Jade, give me a second. Barry, Jade is here." Barry came out of his office and greeted me. He reached out and shook my hand. "Good to see you again. Come on in." Barry Nicholas had been a parole officer in Washburn County for the past 14 years. He and his wife, Lorraine, were casual friends of mine. A few years back, she and I were in the same bowling league. I always teased Barry about his tie selection. I stared at his tie with box turtles on it and grinned. "What?" I laughed. "You never fail to surprise me. That tie is uglier than the one you wore last month when I was here." "I forgot which one that was," he said, chuckling. "I didn't. It had motocross bikes on it." I sat down and opened the 2 folders I'd brought with me. "I need to know more about these guys. You're aware of the murders we've been dealing with, right?" "Who wouldn't be? The news isn't spreading the best light on the sheriff's department. They're making it sound like you guys are incompetent." "Yeah, I really appreciate all their praise, jerks. This guy leaves no evidence, Barry. He's like a ghost." I pushed the folders toward him. "Look at these pictures. I'm thinking these photos are pretty old. I need to know what these two are like now. Our profile is leading us to believe the perp is pretty strong and over 6 feet tall. We can't pinpoint an age range, but do your 2 guys still look like these photos?" He studied the pictures. "Yeah, I see what you mean. These photos are likely from when they were put in the system. Let's see, Adam Ross was released in 2013 after 10 years in Waupun, so that makes him 37 right now. He looked a lot tougher then. Prison can age a guy quickly unless they're always working out and watching their back. Adam has asthma pretty bad, smokes a lot, and probably goes $150 now. That doesn't sound like our guy. How about Chuck Banta? Barry studied Chuck's picture. Yeah, he looks about the same. He's a tough one and not to be trusted. He lives at the halfway house on Cedar Street. He does hold down a full-time job at Millsteel, though. The halfway house has a pretty strict curfew. Everyone has to be inside and accounted for by 10 p.m. The first killing happened in the middle of the night, didn't it? Yeah, and in Milwaukee. Does Chuck have a vehicle? Nope. The guys that live at the halfway house and have jobs take the shuttle to work every day. They get picked up after work, too. Crap. It sounds like both of them are dead ends. Can you print out their most current information for me? Sure can, Jade. He called Nancy into his office. Nancy, pull Chuck Banta and Adam Ross's files and print out everything for Jade, please. Sure thing. It will take about 10 minutes. So no leads yet? Unfortunately not. We're following up with anyone released in the last few years that served 10. Never heard of anyone nicknamed Dime? Sorry, but no. That's what this guy is going by? Just a hunch that doesn't seem to be panning out so far. I drummed my fingers while I continued to wait for the files. I'll ask around. I see quite a few guys every month. I could tell the other parole officers to ask if anyone knows somebody by that nickname. I have no idea if anyone will talk or not, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Nancy brought in the files and handed them to me. Thanks, Nancy. Appreciate it. I guess I better go and start hitting the streets. So far, we haven't had any luck on the phones. Thanks, Barry. Chapter 26. Jack and I started at the far south end of Main Street. We knew every little nook and cranny where the loners hung out, some unemployed, some a little sketchy. We planned to talk to everyone that would give us the time of day along the route and end at Settlers Square at the north end of Main Street. On Saturdays during the summer, a large farmers' market was held downtown. Main Street was blocked off to vehicles between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m., and only foot traffic was allowed. Bands usually played at Settlers Square, and it was a fun, family-oriented environment. During the week, Settlers Square was usually inhabited by truant teenagers, people that milled around waiting to meet up with someone, or old people who were just lonely. Usually, the city police tried to keep anyone that looked up to no good moving along, but today we needed to speak to as many of them as possible. North Bend was a decent town for the most part, and not one that saw many serious crimes. Even the petty criminals had seemed to look over their shoulders lately. Our town was growing, though, and more people were moving in from larger cities. Many of those people we hadn't met yet, had no idea where they came from or what they were capable of. The folks that hung out downtown knew Jack and me. Some of them had had an encounter or two with us in the past and scattered when we approached, while others waved hello. Johnny Davis was a regular that hung out at the Triangle, a small park-like green space in front of Cheryl's Bar and Grill. We sat next to him on the bench. Jack always kept 2 packs of cigarettes with him, menthol and non-menthol. They came in handy when we needed to talk to someone, especially a homeless person. They would sit tight and talk, hoping for more cigarettes as we asked our questions. "Hey, Johnny, what's new?" Jack asked. Johnny scooted to the side when we sat and tried to hide the brown paper bag that likely contained a pint of cheap whiskey. Jack offered him a smoke. He happily chose a menthol cigarette. Jack lit it for him. "So, nothing interesting, huh?" No, not a thing." He pinched the cigarette between his lips and inhaled deeply. "Where are you sleeping these days?" I asked. He pointed. "Over there, under the bridge. Got myself a nice little camp set up." "No fires, though, right?" Jack asked. "Nope, no fires. No, sir." "So, Johnny, have you ever heard of somebody that goes by the name of Dime? I want you to think hard before you answer." I stared at him and waited. "Yep, sure have, uh-huh." I looked at Jack. Doubt was written across his face, and I felt the same way. "Can I have another cigarette? I want one for later." "Sure, but first we have to know who Dime is," Jack said. Johnny pointed at the barber shop in a run-down building on the corner. The small storefront had been a barber shop for as long as I could remember, but these days I thought it sat vacant. An alley was to the left of it, and the right side was attached to a nearly defunct plumbing store. In all the years I'd lived in North Bend, I'd never seen anyone walk in or out of the place. That entire block of buildings needed updating and new facades. I'd heard the city council's planning committee had that area earmarked for rejuvenation later in the year. "The barber that runs the place, his name is Dime." "I thought that place was empty. When was the last time you were in there, Johnny?" Jack asked. One look at the homeless man told us he hadn't had his hair washed or cut in ages. "I can't remember. I just know that's his name. Frankie said so." "Your brother told you that?" I frowned in disbelief. "Uh-huh. He takes out the trash for him and gets a pack of smokes every week for doing it. Can I have another?" He stuck out his thin, bony fingers and waited for Jack to hand him a second cigarette. "Okay, thanks, Johnny. We'll go check it out. You aren't lying to us, are you? We know where you live." I gave him a smile. "Nope, not lying." "I thought that building was vacant," I said to Jack as we crossed the street. "So did I." Jack pulled the squeaky screen door open and turned the knob on the wooden interior door. We entered the old, tired-looking barber shop and saw a middle-aged man trimming another man's hair. "Hello, folks. Be with you in a bit. Just finishing up." We sat and waited. Jack grabbed a fishing magazine. The cover showed people ice fishing. He frowned and looked at the date. The magazine was from January. "Help yourself to some coffee if you like," the barber said. We smiled and declined. He brushed off the customer's neck and unfastened the cape. The man paid and walked out. "How can I help you folks? Need a trim, sir?" We stood and showed him our badges. I asked him to flip the open sign to closed for now. He complied. "What's this about? I have all my licenses." "May we see them?" I asked. "Sure thing." He opened the top drawer in the desk at the back of the shop and pulled out his paperwork. He handed the documents to me. "Your last name is Sense?" "Yep, Joseph Sense, but everyone calls me Dime." "Why's that?" Jack asked. The man laughed. "My old man's kind of humor, I guess. I'm Dime, and my kid brother Jimmy is Nickel. I'm the older of the two, and we're 5 years apart in age. Get it? Our last name is Sense, like sense. Funny, right? My pop started calling me Dime when I turned 10. He said I was worth 10 cents now, a dime. He started calling my brother Nickel then, too. I guess the nickname's just stuck." I glanced at Jack. "Do you live in town, Mr. Sense?" "Sure do, across the street from the police station on Walnut Street." "Your license shows you just opened 6 months ago. What did you do before that?" "I was a barber in Atlanta." "Why move to Wisconsin? It gets pretty cold here in the winter." "Yeah, I'm not too fond of that. My mom and pop are getting pretty old. They have an assisted living apartment on Meadowbrook, and Jimmy watches over them, but he isn't in the best of health. Asthma problems." "Okay, thanks for the information, Mr. Sense." I handed back the documents. "Welcome to North Bend." We walked out with nothing. That wasn't what I was expecting. I sighed. At least Johnny wasn't lying. I don't think that Dime is our man. He doesn't look like he could lift a bag of water softener salt over his shoulder, let alone a person. "Yeah," Jack said. "I think we can write him off. Let's grab a burger, then check on Clayton and Billings. Maybe they're having some luck at the parks." We sat on the patio of a hamburger stand, each of us with a cheeseburger and fries, and watched the traffic drive by. "So tomorrow is Morris's funeral. Do you think it's inappropriate to question people at the luncheon afterward?" I asked as I dipped a fry in the paper cup of ketchup. Let's talk to Lindstrom and Colgate. That might be their intention. Or maybe they've cleared most everyone already. Yeah, okay. Good idea. Let's hit Settlers Square after we finish eating. I made a quick call to Clayton as we ate. How's it going on your end? No luck, Sergeant. We're striking out with everyone, or they're just not in the mood to talk to us. All right, we're going to spend an hour or so at Settlers Square, then go back to the station after that. We'll regroup later and see what we do or don't have. We drove the 5 blocks back to the downtown area and parked in a public lot. From there, it was only 2 blocks across a footbridge over the Milwaukee River that meandered through town and back to Main Street. It was already after 2 o'clock. Only 4 people sat in the square, each looking off in different directions, watching people go by. Old Man Lewis sat on a bench across from 3 young men with skateboards. I approached him and sat down. The others left. Hi, Bob. How are you? Okay. Getting enough to eat? Yep, the Lutheran Church on 6th Street offers lunch 3 times a week for us. That's nice. Anything new on the streets? Are you staying safe? Got to with that killer out there. That's what I heard, anyway. Been watching TV, have you? Jack asked. Nope, don't have a TV. That guy told me. What guy is that? I looked around. Him. Bob pointed to a man walking down the street a few blocks to our north. He was sitting here earlier talking to all of us. He said to be careful because there's a killer on the loose. He was warning you? I asked. Yep, nice guy. Thanks, Bob. Take care. I motioned to Jack with a nod. Let's catch up with that guy and see what he has to say. It didn't take a lot to catch up with the man ahead of us. He looked to be close to 70. Excuse me, sir. The man turned around. Are you talking to me? Yes. We showed him our badges. Do you have a minute? We have a few questions for you. Me? What for? Our friend Bob back there, I pointed to Settlers Square, said you talked to him about the news broadcast about our local killer. Sure did. You can never be too careful. That's why I don't go out after dark. This is my exercise. I come into town, do my errands, and go for walks during the day. I stop, have a beer, play a little video poker, and go home after that. That's my life. Where's home? I asked. East of town about 5 miles, just past Eddie's Tap. You know the place? I've heard of it, can't say I've ever been inside. It's decent and usually quiet. Strange fella in there Tuesday, though. Jack frowned. Strange how? Mikey, the bartender, and I were in there alone. I was playing video poker when this fella walked in. Never seen the man before. The local news came on about the murders, and the guy started laughing. Strangest thing. Mikey got mad and said something to him. The guy got up and left. Couldn't have been in there more than 15 minutes. Do you remember what this guy looked like? Nah, he had on one of those sweatshirts with the hood pulled up. Just seemed like an odd duck, you know? Could you tell his age or his height? I asked. Sorry, ma'am, I didn't look at him closely. After the news, I went back to my video poker and didn't look up again until I heard the front door slam. That's when I noticed he was gone. Do you know what days Mikey works? What's today? Thursday, Jack said. Yep, he doesn't work again until Saturday. Would you happen to know Mikey's last name? Sorry, no. Okay, we'll need your name and phone number, please. I pulled my notepad and a pen out of my pocket and flipped to an empty page. He gave me his information. Jack and I handed him our cards and asked him to call either one of us if he remembered anything more about this man. Chapter 27. We headed back to the station. I asked the boss if we could have a group powwow. He agreed. The 4 of us gathered in Lieutenant Clark's office. Okay, let's hear what you guys have. Clayton, Billings, you 2 took the parks, right? That's right, boss. We talked to... what? Clayton looked at Billings, his eyebrows raised. 15 people? That's about right. And? The lieutenant scratched at the stubble on his chin. And nothing. Nobody had any leads for us. One guy started talking about somebody that went by the name Dime, but his buddy corrected him. How so? The lieutenant asked. Well, he said he heard of a poker dealer that went by that name. Apparently, this dealer had his 15 minutes of fame last year. He dealt the winning hand for somebody who won over $1 million in a poker tournament in Vegas. The winning hand was a royal flush, all diamonds. Anyway, the lead went nowhere. His buddy corrected him and told us the dealer went by the name Diamond, not Dime. We groaned in unison. Okay, Jade, Jack, any leads? Go ahead, Jack said. We did interview somebody that goes by Dime, but he isn't our guy. He's a barber in town, and his dad had been calling him that name since he was a kid. The family surname is Cents, pronounced like cents. The dad called the brother Nickel. I shrugged and listened to more groans. There is someone I think we should question, though. Apparently, a bartender at Eddie's Tap on the outskirts of town had a strange patron in there 2 days ago. This patron laughed when the news segment came on TV about the murders. That's unusual. So what did the bartender tell you? That's the problem, sir. We talked to an older guy downtown. He told us about the incident, not the bartender. The old man doesn't know the bartender's last name, and he isn't scheduled to work again until Saturday. Well, whoever is bartending now should know the guy's last name, right? Yeah, we're going to call there shortly. The bar doesn't open until 4 o'clock. Okay, good work. Jade, make that call at 4 and find out the guy's last name and his address. You and Jack pay him a visit. Will do, Lieutenant. I'll keep you posted. We headed back to the bullpen, each with a styrofoam cup of coffee in our hand. I checked the time, and I had 30 minutes before I would make that call. I wrote myself a list of things that needed to be done. I didn't know how much time Jack and I would be at the office tomorrow, with Morris's funeral beginning at 11. We'd check in first, then leave North Bend before 10 o'clock. I wanted to follow up with Perry, close out some old cases, and interview more guys that had been arrested earlier. It sounded as though they were part of the same crew cooking meth east of town. I sat at my desk with a clean sheet of paper and a pen in front of me. I made the call to Eddie's Tap. It wasn't quite 4 p.m. yet, but most bartenders arrived before they officially opened for business anyway. I wanted to catch whoever opened the bar during a quiet moment before any customers walked in. The phone rang 7 times. I almost hung up when I heard a voice answer. Eddie's Tap. Hello, I'm Sergeant Jade Monroe with the Washburn County Sheriff's Department. Here's my badge number. Write it down, please, since I'm not there to prove my identity to you. I'm wondering if you could spare a minute of your time. Yeah, I guess. Who am I speaking with, please? This is Terry Ferring. Hi, Terry. Are you a bartender there or the owner of Eddie's? I'm a part-time bartender. Do you know the bartender Mikey? Yeah, sure I do. I looked at Jack and nodded. That's great. I'll need Mikey's last name and an address if it's on file there. Sure, give me a minute. I have to check in our personnel file. It's in the office. No problem, thanks. I waited for a few minutes, giving my fingernails the once-over again. They looked worse than the last time I gave them the time of day. Okay, here we are. His legal name is Michael Cole. He lives at 4905 South Merritt, apartment 203, right in North Bend. Do you want his cell number too? Yes, please. I wrote everything down. That should do it. Thanks, Terry. Goodbye. Got what you needed? Jack asked when I hung up. Yep. Let's hope he answers the phone. I pressed the buttons on my desk phone and waited. Jack, Clayton, and Billings were staring. I swiveled my chair around and saw the lieutenant staring at me, too, through his office window. I put my hand over the receiver and chuckled. You guys are going to jinx this. Stop gawking at me. I sat up straight and faced my desk. Mikey had just answered. I explained who I was and told him we were investigating the recent murder cases. I asked if Jack and I could stop by. We had a few questions. Yeah, that's fine by me. Thanks, Mikey. We'll be there in 15 minutes. I hung up. Ready, partner? I sure am. Jack reached in the top drawer of his desk and pulled out his notepad. Let's go. I told the lieutenant we were heading out. Okay, I'm going to stick around until you're back. Brief me when you get in. We climbed into the unmarked black car we had at our disposal. This vehicle was less conspicuous than a cruiser, especially when parking at a large apartment complex. The drive took only 7 minutes. The one thing I always loved about North Bend was the ease of getting around. No matter whether we were going north to south or east to west, the drive across town never took longer than 15 minutes at the most. We pulled into the parking lot and found a guest spot to park in. The complex looked quiet. I figured most residents were still at work. We walked into the main entrance and entered the vestibule. On the right wall were door buzzers for each apartment, and I pressed the button for apartment 203. The name Mike Cole was written under the plastic plate next to the button. Hello? Hi, Mike, it's Sergeant Monroe. Okay, come upstairs and turn right. I'm the third door on the left. Thank you. He buzzed us through. Chapter 28. When I knocked on the door, he invited us in. I introduced Jack and they shook hands. Please, have a seat, Mikey said, pointing to the kitchen table. Thank you. Would you prefer to be called Mike or Mikey? I asked as we sat down. I guess since this is official business, Mike sounds better. What can I do for you? I couldn't help staring at Mike's mustache when I talked to him. This shouldn't take long. We were told by... I checked my notes. Mr. Abe Livingston that you had an odd patron in the bar on Tuesday. He stared blankly at me. I guess I need a little more than that. There are a few odd people that come and go. Sure, I understand. Abe said that the man sat at the bar wearing a hoodie and chuckled at the news segment about the murders. Ah, yeah, I remember that guy now. What a nut job. Who would laugh at something that horrible? Especially when it happens in your own neck of the woods. You know what I mean? Jack nodded. Yes, we do. What can you tell us about him, Mike? Not a lot. I've never seen him before. He was only in the bar for a short while, like he was killing time. What about his physical appearance? You know, height, weight, hair color, build? Well, he sat for most of the time. He wore a hoodie and green-tinted glasses. I remember his shirt was nicer, you know, decent. That's why the hoodie seemed odd. That's normally what you'd see a 20-year-old wear. With the hood pulled up, I mean. This guy looked older. He was kind of stocky. Oh, and that's right, he asked for a weird brand of beer, something I've never heard of. Eddie's is a plain bar, nothing fancy. I sat upright, my elbows resting on the tabletop. I was interested. Would you happen to remember the beer's name? Nah, like I said, I'd never heard of it. He did ask for a second choice, though. Which was? A Guinness, but we don't carry that brand either. He settled on a can of Bud Light with a glass. Funny how most bartenders remember the drinks more than they remember the customer. After I said something to him about laughing at the news, he threw a 5 on the bar and walked out. That's all I can tell you. Sorry I'm not much help. To be honest, your help is the most we've gotten so far. You didn't catch a glimpse of what he was driving, did you? Sorry, no. I turned back to the TV when he walked out. I didn't face the window, and the blinds were drawn anyway with the sun going down and all. So what time would you estimate that to be? Jack asked. I'd say close to 6. The news was wrapping up when he walked out. We thanked Mike for the information, handed him our cards, and shook his hand. I hope you catch this guy soon, Mike said as he showed us to the door. So do we. Jack and I updated the lieutenant when we got back to the station. The bartender didn't have a good description to give us, Lieutenant, Jack said. He told us the guy was stocky, weird, and wore a hoodie and tinted glasses. Sounds like somebody who is trying to hide his identity. Who wears hoodies when it's 70 degrees outside? The lieutenant said. I agreed. Good point, boss. Apparently, the guy ordered an unusual brand of beer, which the bartender couldn't remember the name of. He ended up drinking a Bud Light, and he wanted a glass with it. A bartender that doesn't know the name of a beer? Lieutenant Clark rubbed his forehead and rolled his eyes. I shrugged. In his defense, sir, he said it wasn't a brand they carried. I guess that's why it wasn't familiar to him. All right, let's wrap up for tonight. You two are coming in before you head out to the funeral, right? Yep, we'll be here for a few hours in the morning. Night, boss. Good night. Chapter 29. I was getting used to having Spaz around. He was good company and seemed to enjoy snuggling up next to me on the couch at night. He'd purr while I scratched behind his ears. I'm sure I was just filler until Amber was here full-time. I just needed to remember to keep my bedroom door closed at all times, or Polly and Porky would be toast. Spaz was a 7-year-old tabby given to Amber by our dad when she graduated middle school. She loved that cat, and Spaz was part of the package deal. I got Amber, I got Spaz. Only one more day of living here alone remained. Beginning Saturday, Amber would be my roommate for the foreseeable future. I was pretty sure Melissa would call early, and we'd be out looking at condos for most of the afternoon. Mom called as I drove home. She said she'd reserved a part of the back room at Stanley's for my birthday dinner. Even though there would be just 4 of us, she wanted to bring a cake and my birthday gifts along. We'd have that private area for gift opening, picture-taking, and cake eating after our meal. I agreed that Amber and I would meet her and Bruce at 6:30. I started the oven and popped a frozen lasagna dinner on the center rack. It had 30 minutes to go. Meanwhile, I stripped the bed in what used to be the guest room, even though we never had overnight guests. This was Amber's bedroom now, and I wanted a fresh-smelling set of sheets ready for her first night there. Spaz nuzzled up to my legs as I pulled the fitted sheet off, gathered the pillowcases and the sheets, and put them in the washer. I looked through the linen closet, and the set of peach-colored sheets caught my eye. They would be perfect for Amber. Lance had always thought they looked too girlish for a bed a man slept in, and over time they got pushed farther back in the closet. The bed was made and my meal was ready. The timer beeped and I pulled out the lasagna. I sat on the couch with my meal, a big no-no back in my married days, and enjoyed dinner over my favorite cop show and a glass of red wine. I was hoping a few glasses of wine would help me sleep soundly. I made a quick call to Amber at work just to check up on her. Hey, sis, how's work? It's all good. We're pretty busy. There's a new guy that's been shining around. I think he's crushing on me. I'm the only person he talks to, but it makes time go faster. That sounds nice. Yeah, he's okay, but way too old for me. Anyway, I have people waiting for their drinks. Gotta go. Okay, night, sis. I took my glass of wine and went to watch TV in bed. After a half hour, I turned off the light. My buzzing phone woke me. I slapped at the light and sat up. The screen on my phone showed Amber was calling. And it was after 2 in the morning. She had just closed the bar. Sis, what's up? I asked, already concerned. Amber never called this late. She knew I was an early riser. I think somebody is following me, Jade. What? I'm usually the last one out when I'm on the closing shift. Tommy and Brian left about 20 minutes ago. I locked up and set the alarm. I pulled out of the parking lot a few minutes ago, and suddenly somebody was right on my bumper. The same thing happened when I left your place last night. Last night? Why didn't you tell me? I'm telling you now. I wasn't that freaked out last night, but 2 nights in a row? Amber, drive to the sheriff's department right now. I'll call Detective Jameson and tell him to meet you outside. Pull right up to the door. Don't get out of your vehicle unless he's waiting for you. Do you understand me? Yes, I understand. Call me back the second you're with Jameson. Okay. I hung up and called Jameson immediately. I told him what kind of vehicle Amber had and when she should arrive. I calculated that if she'd just left Joey's, she should be at the station in 10 minutes, give or take a stoplight or two. I got up and made myself a cup of tea and paced. The phone buzzed again, startling me to almost drop my cup. "Sorry, sis, false alarm. It was Sean following me, the idiot. I asked him why he didn't just call my cell instead of stalking my car like that. He said his phone fell between the seats and he couldn't get to it. He was trying to pry it out when he noticed me leaving the parking lot. That's why he tore out after me, to get my attention." Apparently he did. "Then he thought something was wrong when he saw me turn into the sheriff's department parking lot. He pulled in behind me, jumped out, and asked me if I needed help. I guess he just wanted to know if I'd go to George Webb with him for some late-night breakfast. Don't worry, sis. Detective Jameson gave him a talking to. I thanked the detective for waiting outside for me. Now I'm at George Webb. I'll have a talk with Sean myself, too, when we get inside. That was totally not cool. Sorry I woke you." "Don't be sorry, honey. I want you to call any time you don't feel safe. It's the smart thing to do." "Okay, I'm going back to sleep. I'll talk to you tomorrow." I went back to bed and snuggled under the blanket. The alarm buzzed loudly at 6:30. My eyes burned. They wanted to close again for another 4 hours, but that was just wishful thinking. I got up, slipped on my robe, and tapped the green button for the coffee pot. I poured a cup of kibble into Spaz's bowl and hit the shower. After dressing for the funeral, I fed the birds, closed my bedroom door, and left. Jack arrived at the station at the same time I did. As we walked in, I told him about the near scare Amber had had last night. He groaned. Kids. Jack gave me the once-over when we reached the bullpen. "What?" "Nothing. I like the pantsuit, that's all. You look good, and the scarf's a nice touch." I smiled. "Thanks. You look nice, too." We would spend a few hours doing busy work, then leave. There wasn't enough time to delve deep into anything. I set the alarm on my phone for 9 o'clock. I wanted to call Perry and ask if he'd made funeral arrangements for Elise yet. I was hoping hers would be the last funeral I'd attend for some time. "I'm going to head upstairs to see if our new visitors have anything they want to talk about." "You mean the meth lab rats?" I laughed. "The crew has a nickname already?" "Yeah, and I thought of the name all by myself," Jack said proudly. "Really? Then maybe you should conduct the interview." "Have at it, partner. I'll call Perry." "Sure, why not? Maybe I can rattle their rat cage." Jack walked out of the bullpen and turned back at the doorframe and grinned. "Wish me luck." "You'll need it." I chuckled, pushed back my chair, got up and filled my coffee cup. I looked at the clock and turned off my phone alarm. I'd call Perry now. He answered on the third ring. "Hello, Perry, it's Sergeant Monroe. I just wanted to touch base with you." "Hello, Sergeant. I appreciate the call. This is hard, you know." "I completely understand. Have you made arrangements yet for Elise?" "I'm about halfway there. I picked out a pearl white casket. Elise liked white. Do you think that sounds nice?" "Yes, I do. It's perfect." "I'm still waiting on the death certificates before we can move forward. I guess they should be ready this afternoon. I'll arrange a funeral date with the director after that." "Okay, Perry. Please keep in touch, and if you need anything, I'm just a phone call away." "Thank you, Sergeant. Goodbye." I hung up and made a note on my desk calendar to check in again with him on Tuesday about the funeral. Jack was back in the bullpen by 9:30. We checked in with the lieutenant before we left, and Clayton and Billings said they were going back out to the parks today. Maybe they'd get lucky and talk to someone that knew something. "We're heading out, boss," I said as I stood against the doorframe of Lieutenant Clark's office. "As far as I know, Lindstrom and Colgate will be at the funeral, too. I'm sure we'll exchange new information if either of us has any. We should be back by mid-afternoon." "Okay. See you both later." Jack drove our unmarked cruiser while I punched the address into my cell phone's navigation system. "I think this place will be easy enough to find, but just in case." "Where is it?" Jack asked. I looked at my notes. It's at the intersection of Capitol Avenue and 60th Street. The entrance faces Capitol." "Got it. It's called Phillips Funeral Home?" "Yep, that's the name." Oh yeah, duh. I forgot to tell you the latest news. I grinned. Yeah? Don't keep me in suspense. Jack looked over at me. I'm all ears. And then some, I chuckled. Anyway, Amber said in the fall she's going to change her major to criminal justice. No shit. Jack merged onto the freeway as we talked. Uh-huh. What brought that on? She wants to be like us and my pop. Get this, eventually she wants to be an FBI profiler. With 2 degrees, one in criminal justice and the other in behavioral sciences, she'd probably do really well as a profiler in time. Jack whistled. That girl is ambitious. Good for her. I'm impressed. What did your old man say? She hasn't told him yet. I think she's still figuring it out in her own head first. What do you think about me enrolling her in self-defense and gun safety courses over the summer? I think that would be a really good thing to do. She'll need the training eventually anyway. I agreed. I can't wait until tomorrow. I'm going to do my best to focus on the day with Amber and Melissa and enjoy looking at condos. I don't want to think about work for at least 24 hours. And then your birthday dinner is tomorrow night, right? Jack clicked his blinker to get off on the exit ramp. Yeah, we're going to Stanley's. That's a decent place. Okay, here we are. Jack turned into the parking lot and killed the motor. Chapter 30. The parking lot was small and packed with the type of cars one would expect from the group of guys Morris hung with. Lowered, large sedans from the 80s and 90s with limousine-style blackened windows filled the lot. Guess this is the right place, Jack smirked. I elbowed him. There's another Crown Vic. Lindstrom and Colgate must be inside. We entered through the double wooden doors. The vestibule was large, and people were milling around. I saw Terrence in the distance when we passed through the second set of doors. He stood near what looked to be a beverage station. The service wasn't set to begin for another 30 minutes, so we walked over. Mr. King, I said, my hand outstretched. Our condolences go out to your family. He shook my hand, and Jack's too. He looked around the room. Well, there isn't much family here. Looks like most folks are Morris's bunch. My cousin is over there. He pointed across the room. And Morris's grandma and grandpa on his mom's side are over there. He pointed again, to the left front side of the chapel. He turned and showed us the room behind him. Here's where the meal will be after the service. I nodded. I saw a pulpit set up ahead of the chairs and a curtain closed behind it. I was pretty certain Morris's casket sat behind that. The man Terrence introduced as Minister Johnson shook our hands, then excused himself to greet people. The funeral home staff welcomed the visitors too. I scanned the chapel for Lieutenant Colgate and Detective Lindstrom. I saw them seated about halfway back, talking to several people. I figured they were conducting a few discreet interviews. I decided to let them do their thing for now. We would catch up later. Jack and I stood back against the wall and sized up the crowd. We recognized Marshawn, Kev, James, and a few other boys that we had met in the park a few weeks back. We noticed another group standing off alone and whispering among themselves. I nudged Jack and tipped my head in their direction. I hope they aren't a rival gang here to smirk. I kept my eye on them. I was certain Lindstrom and Colgate were familiar with most of the faces in the crowd. A lot of them probably had jackets at the police station. The minister asked everyone to take a seat. Terrence and whatever relatives were in attendance sat in the front row. Jack and I shook hands with Lindstrom and Colgate and sat next to them near the back. Most everyone else sat in between. The minister probably didn't know Morris well, but he did know Terrence. He read from a sheet likely written by Terrence about Morris's good qualities and how he'd been taken too soon. A short sermon and a few prayers were recited. People walked up to the closed casket to say their final goodbyes. A photo of Morris at a younger age sat on an easel next to the casket. Terrence had mentioned he didn't have any recent photos of his nephew. A few people stayed for the luncheon, but most of Morris's acquaintances left. They didn't have a reason to stay, and it was unlikely they would sit around a table, eat lunch, and visit with the cops. Jack and I sat across from Colgate and Lindstrom. We each had a plate of food in front of us and a cup of coffee. We talked quietly and exchanged information, which took only 5 minutes. None of us had any solid leads. We told them how we took to the streets, and the only thing that rang true from talking to people was about the guy at Eddie's Tap. We were told what this man wore, and that he laughed at the news broadcast, but other than that we had nothing. The bar was a small, out-of-the-way place that didn't get a lot of business and didn't have cameras. We headed back to North Bend at 2 o'clock and pulled into the station just before 3. We updated Lieutenant Clark and went back to our desks to catch up on our busy work. "So, did the boys upstairs tell you anything important this morning?" I asked Jack as I shuffled through the paperwork on my desk. "Nope. Their lips are sealed. The DEA shut down the meth lab in that farmhouse off of Decorah in Newburgh, but it's likely they just moved the operation somewhere else. We're always chasing the low-level punks. I want the people that are funding these labs and paying the rents. That's who we need to find." I agreed. Clayton and Billings walked in, and I gave them a questioning look. Billings shook his head. "We're dealing with a ghost. No video, no eyewitnesses, no evidence, no description, no word on the street. It's pretty hard to catch someone based on that." I filed a few cases that had either been solved or dismissed, cataloged evidence that went into our evidence room, and asked Clark if we could release Elise's car. He agreed, and I called Perry to tell him. He was in no hurry to pick it up. I told him it would be parked out back inside the chain-link fence behind the evidence garage. He agreed to come by and pick it up next week. I wished everyone a quiet weekend and left at 4:30. A hot bath, 2 birds, and a cat were waiting for me at home. Chapter 31. I woke to the sounds of dishes and silverware coming out of the cabinets in the kitchen. I grabbed my cell and checked the time. 8 o'clock. I couldn't believe I slept in that late. I called Amber's phone. It rang in the kitchen, and I grinned. She'd never forgive me if I came out of the bedroom with my gun drawn and ready to fire. "Hello, sis. I'm making your birthday breakfast, so get your butt out here." "Sounds wonderful. I'll be right there." I got up, washed my face, and slipped on a pair of sweats and a t-shirt. I twisted my long hair into a rope and pinched it off with a clip at the top of my head. With my slippers on, I shuffled down the hallway to the kitchen. 2 plates with silverware and napkins, 2 glasses filled with orange juice, and 2 cups of steaming coffee sat on the table. "I could get used to this," I said as I sat and took a sip. "Since when do I have orange juice?" "You didn't. I bought groceries. I don't know about you, but I don't intend to starve while I'm living here." "Cool. What's for breakfast?" She turned from the stove and grinned. Amber was beautiful. She had perfect hair, perfect teeth, and a perfect shape. Someday she'd fall in love, and I hoped it would last forever. "I'm making French toast. I know how much you love it, so hand me your plate." I grinned. "We have bread, eggs, butter, and syrup?" "Uh-huh, we do now." "Man, why didn't you move in here a year ago?" I got up and gave her a hug. "I love you, girl." "I love you too, and happy birthday. Now sit down and tell me how you like it. I put extra cinnamon in the egg and milk batter." "It's delicious." I was surprised Melissa hadn't called yet. It was closing in on 9 o'clock. I tried her cell and it went straight to voicemail. "Melissa didn't call your phone, did she?" "Nope." Amber looked at the screen. "No texts either." "That's weird. I'll shower and try her again. Did you bring your clothes with you?" "Yeah, some, but I'll grab more tomorrow. I thought food for the house was more important." I ate 4 pieces of French toast and had 2 glasses of orange juice, then headed for the shower. "I'll be ready in a half hour. I'll try Melissa again then. Maybe we can just meet her at Realty World and go from there." "Sure, I'm going to hang up some of my clothes." I tried Melissa's cell again at 10 o'clock. This time the recording said the mailbox was full. I sat on the couch and felt a little disappointed. I was sure Melissa was more responsible than that. This is really weird. I'll try the office number. I called Realty World and a female voice answered. I felt relief until the woman introduced herself as Adriana. "Hello, Adriana. My name is Jade Monroe. I have the day set aside to look at condos with Melissa. I'm surprised I haven't heard from her yet. We set it up on Tuesday afternoon, and she said she would confirm it with me this morning. We were going to start looking at condos around noon. The odd thing is her cell phone recording says her mailbox is full. Do you have any idea what's going on?" "Give me one moment, please." Through the phone line, I heard rustling and drawers opening and closing. Adriana returned to the phone. "I'm so sorry, Jade, and this is very odd. I got a text from Melissa on Tuesday night saying she had to leave town abruptly. She said she would be in touch, but come to think of it, I haven't heard a peep from her all week. I just checked her desk to see what appointments she had. I assumed she either canceled them or gave them to another realtor, but her monthly calendar is gone along with her briefcase. I have no idea if she's missed other appointments or not. Give me another second, please." I heard Adriana talking to someone else, probably another realtor in the office. She came back to the phone. "Nobody was asked to cover for her, but now that you said her mailbox is full, I'm assuming she's missed other appointments too. I'm so sorry. I have no idea what places she had lined up, but I would be happy to show you some myself. I'd hate to feel like you wasted your day by keeping it open to look at condos." I had to give it some thought. Melissa knew exactly what I was looking for. Okay. I'm only interested in 3-bedroom units, though, without yard work." "Sure, give me a second here. I'm pulling some up on my computer as we speak. You want to stay in North Bend?" "Yes, definitely." "Okay. I have 5 vacant condos and 2 brand-new models I can show you. Would you like to go ahead and take a look at them?" I breathed a sigh of relief. "Absolutely. My sister and I have been looking forward to this all week." Adriana laughed. "I know how exciting it is to look for a new home. Would you like to come to the office and leave from here?" "That sounds perfect, and we'll leave now, thank you." "Time to go?" Amber asked as she poured kibble into Spaz's bowl. "Yep, let's go enjoy the day. How about a beer at left field later?" "That sounds great. I'll even kick your butt at a game of pool." We met with Adriana, who apologized again. The whole thought of Melissa bailing on us didn't sit well with me. She didn't seem the type to leave, emergency or not, and not make arrangements with the other realtors to handle her appointments. Adriana drove as Amber and I looked over the listing sheets. "This place sounds awesome," Amber said. "It has a huge clubhouse with a workout room, a library, a business center, and an indoor pool. The split floor plan is cool, too." "Yes, that's a new development on the south side of town. It's called Ashbury Woods. It's very nice, with only 55 units. Some are even set back in the woods. Would you like to see that one first?" Amber looked pleadingly at me. I chuckled. "Sure, it sounds great." We toured a 3-bedroom unit available at the end of a cul-de-sac. It sat among oak trees and had a private balcony facing the woods behind it. It was large enough for each of us to live comfortably within our own space. The extra bedroom and den were definitely pluses. "Can we check out the clubhouse, too?" Amber asked. "Of course. The nice thing about this unit is there's a walking path right next to it. The path cuts through the woods and opens up at the clubhouse. It's a fast and beautiful shortcut. Let me show you." We took the path through the woods, and it was peaceful and serene. I could actually hear birds singing and see squirrels romping. It felt amazing to have something so quiet and relaxing right at our feet when we were still within the city limits. "This is wonderful," I said. I looked at Amber. She couldn't have wiped the smile off her face even if she'd tried. The clubhouse was large and inviting. Many residents were inside taking advantage of the workout room. Just beyond the glass doors were a hot tub and a patio with plenty of umbrella tables and grills. The Olympic-sized pool was inside, along with saunas and lockers in each restroom. A beverage bar and a large-screen TV were to the left of the pool area. "Wow!" Amber and I spoke the words simultaneously. We toured 5 more units scattered throughout town, but my mind kept taking me back to the condo at Ashbury Woods. We returned to Realty World at 3 o'clock. I pulled the listing sheet out again and checked the square footage and the price for the first condo. "It looks like you really have your mind set on Ashbury Woods, don't you?" Adriana said. "It is wonderful, and at 2,000 square feet, it's almost as big as the house I have now. You know, Melissa was going to write up a description and get my house listed for sale. Do you know if she did that before she left town?" "I'll check. All I need is the address." I gave Adriana my address, and she entered it into her computer. "Sorry, it hasn't been listed yet. Did she take photos already?" "Yes, several weeks ago. I was hoping to have the house listed by now. I don't want to step on her toes by having somebody else do it. Did she upload the photos of my house into your database yet?" "It doesn't appear so. I wish there was a way to get a hold of Melissa and find out when she's coming back. How long do you want to wait?" Adriana asked. "I'll let it go for a few more days. I'd love to put an offer on the condo, but it would have to be on a contingency basis, I guess." "We can certainly do that if you like." "I think Amber and I need to talk it over before I commit to anything. Are you working tomorrow, Adriana?" "I sure am, until 3 o'clock. Here's my card. If you'd like to put in an offer, give me a call. It's been fun working with both of you today." "Thanks." Amber and I stood, shook her hand, and headed to left field. We'd discuss the condo over a beer, then go home to get ready for dinner. "So, what do you think of the place?" I asked as I slurped the creamy head of my oatmeal stout. I already knew the answer, but I loved seeing her happiness and hearing the excitement in Amber's voice. "I really love it, Jade. I never knew something that pretty was right in town." "Me either. What do you think of putting an offer in on it tomorrow before someone else sneaks in and buys it?" Amber reached across the bar table and hugged me. "I'd be over the moon." I noticed a thoughtful gaze on her face as she sipped her beer. "What's going on in that mind of yours?" I asked. "Nothing important, just wondering." "About what?" "Why Mom named us the name she did. I thought all babies were born with steel gray eyes." I laughed. Where did this come from? "I don't know. It's your birthday. I was just wondering what giving birth was like, and then I thought about our names. Were you born with green eyes and me with yellow?" "Highly unlikely. Mom likes jewelry, and Amber and Jade seem to be what she wears most often. Don't overthink this. I'm sure there wasn't a deep-seated thought process when we were named. Mom is easy to read. I bet she wears jade tonight." We both laughed. I wanted to bring up the idea of self-defense courses with Amber. I decided to do it after the birthday party. It was time to go home and get ready for dinner. I paid the bill and got up. "Let's go. We don't want Mom to have a heart attack if we're late." Chapter 32. The hostess led Amber and me to the back room at Stanley's. The large banquet room was divided into 6 sections, separated by planters filled with glossy greenery. Mom and Bruce were already there and waved when they saw us approach. Mom stood up. "There's our birthday girl. Hi, honey." Our mom, Anne Summers, was dressed nicely tonight. She wore a summery sheath and had her shoulder-length black hair pulled into a sleek ponytail that just skimmed the back of her neck. She wore her signature plum-colored lipstick, which we always had to wipe off our cheeks after a kiss. Amber and I exchanged glances and smiled. Mom wore jade jewelry tonight, obviously in honor of my birthday. She kissed me, then moved on to Amber. I pulled a tissue out of my purse and wiped my cheek. Bruce looked like Bruce. He always wore a plaid cotton shirt when they went out. He never tried terribly hard to impress anyone. His shirts were dangerously snug around his ever-expanding midsection, and he usually wore jeans that looked uncomfortably tight. His short gray hair looked the same as always, although it did appear to be thinning more every time I saw him. Amber and I said hi and sat down. We didn't want his hugs that would last too long while he pressed himself against our chests. I made sure Amber sat between Mom and me so Bruce wouldn't have the opportunity to accidentally brush his knee against hers. "Let's order a few drinks and catch up. After that, we'll eat. Then you can open your presents," Mom said. "I'm 31, Mom. I don't really need presents and a cake." Nonsense. As long as I'm alive, my kids will have birthday parties. Maybe someday I'll even throw parties for my grandkids. Amber and I rolled our eyes. In due time, Mom. So we looked at condos today and found a beautiful one available in Ashbury Woods. It's a fairly new complex on the south side of town. I just might put an offer in on it tomorrow. That sounds wonderful, honey. Here comes the waitress, so let's order. Prime rib was Saturday night's special, and we all ordered it. I couldn't remember the last time I had prime rib, a baked potato with sour cream, and steamed vegetables. Hot bread and butter was delivered to the table first. Mom and Bruce each drank their usual, a brandy old-fashioned. I grew up in an era where all adults drank them. I was sure anyone over 60 in Wisconsin still did. The memories of my youth returned, and I smiled. I recalled sneaking around at dinner parties, plucking the speared maraschino cherries and orange slices out of our guests' brandy old-fashions and gobbling them down. "Excuse me, I'll be right back." Mom pushed back her chair and headed to the nearest waitress. They whispered to each other, and Mom returned to the table. "That was subtle," I said jokingly. "Fine, whatever. I gave them the cake when we walked in. They're going to cut it and bring it out with 31 lit candles on it. Yay! You can open your presents after that." I laughed. "Sure, no problem." The waitress arrived with a cart. The candlelit sheet cake, already cut into 3-inch squares, was placed in the center of our table. "Happy Birthday, Jade" was written in brilliant fuchsia lettering on white frosting. "Hurry, make a wish and blow out the candles." I smiled, closed my eyes, and wished that we'd catch this sick killer. I blew out the candles. The marble cake was moist and rich, and one piece was more than plenty. The gold-colored carafe of coffee was filled twice. While I opened my gifts, Bruce told us the most recent off-color jokes he'd heard at work. The waitress appeared at our table one more time. She carried a bottle of wine cradled in her arm. "Did you order wine, Mom?" I asked. The waitress spoke up before Mom could answer. "This is for the birthday girl." "Thank you, but I don't think we ordered it," I said. "It's from the gentleman at the bar, ma'am. He said to tell you happy birthday." She handed me the wine bottle, swaddled in a white linen tea towel to catch the drips, and walked away. Amber again reminded me of the fortune cookie. "Geez, sis, your fortune cookie keeps coming true. Remember what it said? A stranger will present you with a gift." Amber went on to tell Mom and Bruce how I'd received a floral arrangement at work last week. I turned the bottle to look at the label. It read, "Sweet Melissa, sweet sparkling red wine." Son of a bitch, don't touch this bottle. I ripped my badge out of my purse and leaped from my chair. I grabbed the waitress by the arm, startling her. "Show me the man that ordered the wine." "Excuse me?" I flashed my badge at her. "I'm a cop. Now where is he?" "Oh dear, right this way. He's at the bar." I raced through the main dining room and into the bar, with the waitress on my heels. "Which guy?" "Oh, that's odd. He's gone. He was standing next to that stool right there." She pointed to a bar stool that a young lady had just sat down on. "Do you see him anywhere?" The waitress scanned the bar. "Sorry, I don't." I approached the woman that had just sat down. "Excuse me, ma'am, you're going to have to get up." I raised my voice above the crowd. "I want this entire bar cleared right now. Sorry, it's a police matter." I told the bartenders not to touch anything and to get the manager out here. I turned to the waitress again. "I'll need the man's description, and do you have camera surveillance outside?" "Just at the door. It doesn't go out into the parking lot very far." I glanced around, my eyes darting from corner to corner. "What about these cameras at the bar?" "They're fake and only used as a deterrent so people don't get too crazy. This is a nice establishment." "All right, don't go anywhere." "But, ma'am, I have tables to wait on." "Not anymore. Stay put. This is a police matter." I made a call to the North Bend Police Dispatch and headed back to the banquet room. "Mom, Bruce, Amber, you're leaving now. Amber, go home with Mom. I have a policeman on the way to escort you home safely." "But—" I interrupted my mom. No buts. You're going home and lock the doors behind you. Don't let anyone in. Do you understand me? Take everything with you except that wine. Don't touch it. Mom, please don't argue with me. Amber, you're in charge. Now go wait in the vestibule. The police officer is on his way. I called Jack. I need you at Stanley's now. The killer was just here. Get Kyle and Dan. I need them too. Chapter 33. Hurry. Go before you're seen. The voices had come to life once again. He laughed and exited through the delivery's driveway. What, now you're concerned about my welfare? Aren't you always telling me when I should kill somebody? Dime peeled out of the driveway and was long gone before the first officer arrived. He chuckled as he imagined Jade's expression when she looked at the wine label. He wished he could have seen her face. How appropriate was that? I couldn't have gotten any luckier if I had tried. A fitting birthday gift, if I do say so myself. I wouldn't want you to become too complacent on your birthday, Sergeant. He'd timed it just right. Today, Jade and her sister were supposed to look at condos with Melissa. Poor Melissa. She was incapacitated and couldn't make it. Dime knew Melissa's absence had to have bothered Jade. It was part of her training as a detective. She couldn't help herself. He doubted if her mind was entirely focused on her birthday party anyway. Bingo. What a brilliant idea the wine was. Now she'll be frantic, wondering what happened to the realtor. That little hint, the subtle nudge, would send the entire city of North Bend into a tailspin. Everyone that had to leave the restaurant would be talking about it. The search for Melissa would begin soon. He'd planned it perfectly. Melissa had been dead for 4 full days already, and she was most likely beginning to stink, especially in that closed-up barn. Blowflies laid eggs on corpses soon after death, and the eggs turned into maggots in no time. Dime was sure Melissa must be a mess by now. He grinned at the thought. I have to come up with an idea for her to be found in the next day or so. It's time for the sergeant to get busy. Dime drove home and went downstairs. He got comfortable on his wooden chair with his notebook in his lap and a Stella Artois on the side table. He turned to the dog-eared page for Melissa and filled in more information. He'd be starting a new page soon. He thought about Melissa's briefcase and the information that lay inside. He got up and walked to the bookcase. With his strong body pressed against its heavy weight, he pushed it aside and reached into the wall. He felt the briefcase handle and pulled it out. Back on the chair, he rummaged through her paperwork. He knew what he was looking for. Somebody had to be in charge of maintaining that property. If the current owners ever hoped to sell that estate, the grounds would have to look pristine. He remembered the lawn appeared due for a cutting when he was there last Tuesday. The name of the lawn service has to be in here somewhere, he thought. He read over the listing sheet, then checked a few others. It appeared that the same lawn service was retained for all of the upscale properties that were vacant. A sly grin crossed his face as he checked the names of the male realtors at Realty World. He randomly picked one, reached for his burner phone, and made the call. He knew he'd get a recorded message on a Saturday night. It was just what he wanted anyway. He left a message saying Realty World needed a groundskeeper at the property on Oriole Lane tomorrow to freshen things up. A potential buyer was coming to view the estate first thing Monday. Dime pulled the tab on another beer. He knew he would need several beers to sleep soundly that night. The anticipation he felt in hopes of the groundskeeper finding Melissa was more than exciting. He took the stairs to the first floor, shut off the basement light, and went into the living room. He turned on the TV. His favorite crime thriller was just beginning. Chapter 34. I saw my family off and spoke to the manager while I waited for Jack. I knew we wouldn't find any evidence left behind. Our killer was smarter than that. Plus, this bar and restaurant was crowded. I was certain the bar countertop had been wiped down too since the killer had left. We need the restaurant closed, sir. I know this is an inconvenience, especially on a busy Saturday night, but there's no alternative. The manager wrung his hands and groaned. I understand, but I don't even know how to go about doing that. People are waiting for their meals and— Sir, I interrupted. Whatever is ready to be served can go in doggy bags. Whatever hasn't been started isn't an issue. Give the customers rain checks. I don't care. Just get them out, now. I have a forensic team on their way, and any chance of finding evidence could be destroyed the longer people are here. Jack, Kyle, and Dan arrived and entered through the front door. By now, the place was nearly deserted. The manager, bartender, and the waitress remained in the building with me. Jade, are you okay? Jack asked when he saw us sitting at a table in the main dining room. Yeah, I'm fine. Jack, this is Leanne Frank, the waitress that spoke with our guy, the bartenders Fred Stevenson and Mike Williams, and the night shift manager of the restaurant, Brian McKinney. They shook hands. These two fellas, Kyle and Dan, are our forensic team. Leanne, Fred, and Mike, I'm going to need you to show these two everything you remember. Show them exactly where our guy stood, if he sat, what he touched, if he ordered a drink or food for himself, if he held a plate, a glass, a utensil, pulled the bar stool out, and so on. I'm sure you get the idea. Leanne, Mike, and Fred nodded and began with Dan and Kyle at the bar. I pulled Kyle aside, leaned in and whispered to him. In public, I didn't want to use the name Dime too often, fearing the media would sensationalize the story and start using Dime as the killer's moniker. The wine bottle is sitting in the banquet room. As far as I know, it was only handled by Dime, the waitress, and me. Got it, Jade. So what do you know so far? Jack asked. The only thing the waitress and bartenders remember was that he wore a baseball cap and dark green-lensed glasses. They couldn't tell his hair or eye color, and with such a crowd at the bar, they couldn't tell how tall he was. Apparently, he was shoulder to shoulder with everyone else standing around. They thought he wore a black hoodie, and they didn't see his pants. Yeah, a dark hoodie over his head would look out of place in a nice restaurant like this. He'd stand out more by wearing it up. Smart to wear a baseball cap instead. Jack looked around and pointed at the cameras. I read his mind. They're fake. Damn it. Okay, let's take a look at that bottle. We got up and I led the way to the banquet room. We walked up to the table and took a seat. The bottle remained where I had left it, still swaddled in the tea towel. The towel was wet, and the tablecloth beneath the bottle was damp. The room had been bustling with families enjoying their Saturday night less than an hour ago. Now the empty space felt ominous. Jack leaned in and read the label out loud. Sweet Melissa, sweet sparkling red wine. He whistled, ran his fingers through his hair, then squeezed his head between his hands. If that isn't a clue, I don't know what is. I agreed. We need the manager to pull up a list of how often this wine is purchased from the wholesaler, how often customers request it by the glass or by the bottle. Is it on their drink menu? I've never even heard of it. How would Dime know they sell it here? I motioned for Brian to come over. I wrote all my questions in my notepad and tore out that page. Brian. Yes, Sergeant. I need you to take care of this immediately. I handed him the piece of paper and continued my conversation with Jack. My question is, how did Dime know you'd be here tonight? I don't know, Jack, but I do know one thing. We just might have a serial killer on our hands. Jack squeezed my shoulder. We'll get him, Jade. You can count on that. Right now, we need to focus on Melissa. You said she hasn't been heard from since Tuesday? That's right. According to Adriana, one of the realtors, she received a text from Melissa Tuesday night saying she had a family emergency. Nobody from the office has heard from her since. I tried calling Melissa this morning, but her mailbox was full. Adriana said her appointment calendar and her briefcase were gone. What about her family? Is she married? Does she have anyone in North Bend or Milwaukee? Apparently not. It sounds like her family lives somewhere else. I think Adriana said Iowa. That means she could have easily driven there. But if it was an emergency, she probably would have flown. We'll check the airlines. This clue with the bottle might just be a hoax to ruin your birthday. I don't know, Jade, but we have to cover all angles. What about gloves? Dime had to pay for the wine, even if he didn't actually touch the bottle, right? That's true. Hold on." I called out to Fred and Mike, the bartenders, to come over. "Who actually spoke to our guy?" Fred answered. "I did." "How did he pay for the bottle?" It was prepaid over the phone with a credit card." A surprised look furrowed Jack's brows. "A credit card? We need to see the receipt on that right away." "Sure, I'll go find it." "There's no way he'd be that careless. It must be a stolen card," I said. Fred returned a few minutes later with a credit card receipt. "Here it is. The bottle was ordered at 5:30 today. We billed it to a Melissa Maitely's credit card." I pressed my palms into my eyes and shook my head. "Thanks, Fred. We'll need a copy of that receipt." I waited until he was out of earshot to continue. "Well, Dime is definitely making a name for himself. I doubt if we're going to find Melissa alive, if we find her at all. If that's the case, he'll be officially on record as a serial killer." Kyle and Dan joined us at the table and looked at the bottle. "Should we process the bottle now, Jade?" "Sure, go ahead. It sounds like he didn't touch it, but it's protocol. I don't know what to do about this restaurant. With the volume of patrons here tonight, is it even feasible to waste time trying to lift fingerprints that may belong to hundreds of people?" I looked from face to face. Their expressions were all the same. It didn't matter if Dime was in the woods or in a bustling restaurant. He never left a trace of evidence. "Has anyone called the lieutenant?" I asked. Jack answered. "Yeah, I did on my way in. He's expecting the 4 of us in his office first thing in the morning for a briefing." Chapter 35. A crew of 3 groundskeepers arrived at the estate on Oriole Lane at 9 a.m. One man sat atop the oversized riding mower and addressed the large areas of lawn that needed cutting. Another pushed a self-propelled mower. His job was to trim the lawn in all of the tight spots around the trees and flower beds that the large mower couldn't get close to. The last man operated the leaf blower and cleaned off the walkways, porch, deck, and the driveway area nearest the garage. A strange scent seemed to linger in the air near the barn, and Joseph, the man pushing the hand-operated mower, noticed it. The riding mower that Andy sat on was moving at too fast a clip to catch the scent. Harry, the man blowing the leaves and debris from the hard surfaces, had his own force of moving air, making the odor unnoticeable. With the front porch and sidewalk done, Harry moved on to the garage area. He adjusted the slipping shoulder straps, wiped his brow, and began blowing debris. The row of windows on the garage doors fell right at eye level. The zinging sound of a stone hitting the garage door caused Harry to turn. He hoped it hadn't left a mark. He turned off the blower, set it down, and walked over. The sun pouring through the row of windows caused something to catch his eye. Harry peered in, cupping his hands against the glass to block the sun at his back. A gold Infiniti sedan was parked inside. He rubbed his chin in thought. The place was supposed to be vacant, and he was under the assumption the owners had moved to another state. What the heck is a car like that doing here? He flagged down Joseph, the man using the push mower. "Hey, man, come and take a look. There's a high-end car in the garage." They both peered through the garage windows. Harry, again, just to confirm what he'd really seen a few minutes ago. "That kind of car shouldn't be parked in there. Something isn't right. Plus, there's a really foul smell coming from the barn area. Do you think somebody abandoned an animal in there and it died?" "Hang on." Harry went back to the porch area and looked at the front door. The lockbox was on the handle. He gave it a tug. It was locked. "Something about this smells fishy to me." "It's worse than fishy, man. Let's take a look in the barn." "It isn't locked?" Harry asked. "Nope. No reason to lock it if it's empty. Let's get Andy over here. We all have to agree before we go in there." Andy had just finished the backyard and was driving the riding mower toward the tractor shed to cut a perimeter around it. He heard yelling and caught a glimpse of waving arms. He turned and headed in their direction. He disengaged the mower blade and turned the key to shut down the machine. "What's up?" "We might have a problem," Joseph said. Andy swung his leg over the seat and dismounted the mower. "What is that supposed to mean?" "Come take a look." Harry led the way to the garage and looked in for the third time. "What do you make of that?" "There's nobody here, is there?" Andy asked. "Nope, the house is locked up tight, and according to our contract, the owner's moved out of state. At least that's the way it's written on our service agreement. I don't think it's legal for the realtors to keep a vehicle here. They're the only ones with access to the house or garage," Harry said. Andy chewed on that information for a minute. "Yeah, we better give them a call." Joseph paused. "What about the barn?" He stared at Harry. "What's going on with the barn?" Andy asked. "There's a really bad smell coming from it, and a car like that in the garage, it doesn't feel right." "Smell?" Andy's eyes darted around. "You mean like meth lab smell?" "No, not like that. Like death." The three cautiously checked all of the house doors and peeked through the windows. They didn't want to be surprised by anyone who might be there that wasn't supposed to be. When all seemed safe, and they'd found no evidence of anyone lurking around, they headed toward the barn. The odor got stronger as they approached. "Holy crap, I smell